the revolutionary ankle lock system, an integrated brace built into the boots, delivering unrivaled support, protecting ligaments from twists, tears, and trauma.
Regan Slaymaker for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store and R Kings, and I have the pleasure to be joined by Gareth A. Davies. Monday morning, Gareth. All ready for a big week of boxing ahead, mate.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out how big it is, really.
So,
I know we're closing in on Canelo and Crawford.
yeah,
Um, it feels. I know is there McCormack this week?
McCormack's next week. I think we've got Misfits on Saturday, haven't we?
That's why it's a big one for you. Oh, because you've got Till and Rockhold. Now, if I was covering that, I'd be calling it a big week as well because it'll be fireworks all week. They're both amazing characters. I once drank a bottle of tequila in Mexico with Luke Rockhold. Got him. He can't drink. Yeah. And we I was working for the UFC, and we went to Mexico for the first ever UFC event in Mexico. And one day I did a podcast with him. We had 10 tequilas each during the podcast. And it was a really, really good chat, but we got absolutely slaughtered. It's probably about 13, 14 years ago. He's a brilliant guy. I mean, he loves himself. He believes he's the best looking man on the planet. But he's a really good guy to talk to, and he's had a really interesting life. We had a lot of fun, and we got into a lot of trouble as well. So there you go.
I can only imagine who's more fun to have 10 shots of tequila with, Darren Till or Luke Rockhold, but you've got the
I would
experience.
not dare to have 10 shots tequila with Darren Till, because God knows what would happen afterwards. I mean, he begins as a lunatic, and then as you go on, maybe the tequilas would calm him down. You never know. But that's a really good fight. I've got Till as the favourite. There's a lot of miles on the clock of Rockhold, who I think lost to Mike Perry as well in bare knuckle.
I think he did, yeah.
Um, but Darren Till is the arch wind-up merchant on those fight weeks. So once he gets his Scouse language going, and once he starts spitting expletives and gets the bit between his teeth, it's going to be highly entertaining. So that's happening.
Yeah. We've got. I think that might be the only, unless I'm drastically missing something, and someone will come for us in the comments, Gareth. I think that's the only bit of boxing this week. But we've got McCormack next week, and then it's Crocodile and
Canelo Crawford.
Crawford
Yeah,
and everything
yeah,
like that. So it's
yeah,
so we've got
yeah.
we're winding
Bare
up to
knuckle.
that.
I've got bare knuckle a week on
Okay.
Saturday, and so
Okay.
in Bristol, Lucas Brown's on the card now.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
he's back to fight on the card. BKB, I'm working for them, and I think I'm doing the post-fight interviews and some of the build-up.
Cool.
But for me, it feels like not a lull because that's unkind to all the other cards. But there's that for me. There's a lot of focus in my mind on obviously on BKB because I'm working on it live
Hmm.
on September the 6th in Bristol. Um, and there's a guy called Canelo and Raffle, and they're really brilliant guys and brilliant fighters, and you've got to tell their stories, and they're great to be around. And bare knuckles growing all the time. In boxing, I think Canelo and Crawford's a really big story. I think it's a really big moment. Unified boxing organization being put together by Dana White and Turkey. You know, the first real effort in America to do a big event. So had a long chat on Saturday night on fight night on whether, you know, does boxing need saving in America at the moment? You know, there's not a heavyweight in sight. I mean, I know we've got Jarrell Miller, but he's over here. Jared Hansen needs to come over here. Michael Hunter and Jarrell Miller are fighting on that fight week. I know I'm digressing, but it's a really big issue for boxing at the moment because it's whether that elision or that union of Turkey Al Sheikh, Saudi Arabian money, Dana White, who are all brilliant at what they do, are actually capable of creating big time boxing in America again. Well, I say big time boxing, they can create big time boxing, but can they put boxing back on the screens in bars alongside UFC, baseball, basketball, American football, and ice hockey, which are on there. That's what's on the bars. There's not boxing. And I'm not sure. I mean, I go back a long way, Regan, going to America. I started going to America in the late 90s. 98 was my first trip to America. And even though I've been covering boxing a long time before that, and, you know, I go through the eras of the heavyweights still, Mayweather, Pacquiao, Canelo, all the Brits that wanted to be successful, Amir Khan, Carl Froch, Ricky Hatton, Joe Calzaghe at the end. Anthony Joshua never managed it because it went wrong in New York against Andy Ruiz. Tyson Fury, all these guys almost had to be successful in America to be successful. And it stopped with Anthony Joshua. But in that period in America as well, Canelo was big, Mayweather was big, Manny Pacquiao was big. And I don't know, apart from the odd individual now, when they fight, like when Devin Haney fights Tank Davis, it's huge. But we need 10 of those a year to happen in America, or 7 of those a year to happen in America to make it big again, in my view. They should have a big tournament, like Don King did in the 80s. So I digress there, but I just feel it's a big event in time, you know?
Definitely. I mean, I've got 2, American-based events, potentially 3 that are our main talking points today, Gareth. I mean, we'll start with Canelo Crawford. You brought it up. I was going to say, from what you've said there, I mean, it is a mega fight without a doubt. And I feel like when it was announced, there was a bit of excitement for it, but as it's got closer, I think everyone's gearing up with it. We've seen Canelo. First of all, we've seen Canelo sparring Jaron Ennis last week. I mean, with obviously that weight where Jaron Ennis is closer to Terence Crawford in weight, do you think that's perfect preparation for Canelo for this fight?
Yeah, probably. I mean, Jaron Ennis is a brilliant fighter as well, and kind of undersold and undernourished in terms of being a star. I mean, there's a case in point. And he's just been matched up against someone we've got no interest in, and whose name at 8:30 in the morning on a Monday, I can barely put in my mouth at the moment, you know. So it's an odd one with Jaron Ennis as well. The guy should have been a star ages ago. I'm sure Eddie Hearn will do great things with him. Yes, he's the perfect partner, sparring partner for Canelo. Certainly of that ilk anyway, because Crawford is going to be smart, difficult, make himself a small target. He's going to move a lot. He's going to engage every now and again. He's going to hit hard himself. He's got a strong physicality about him, a muscularity. So he's got all the qualities that Canelo needs. But all Canelo is going to do is try and hunt him down and hit him. That's all he does. And I know within that are all the fine kind of movements and feints and all those things that he does. And everybody talks about it. I must have spoken to 12 to 15 of his opponents. And they all say he looks simplicity itself, but he's a really hard guy to fight. And I think Crawford may find that, even though I'm edging towards him at the moment. I'm edging towards a Crawford win, and in a performance where he frustrates Canelo and counters him and moves. Because if you counter and move, and if you counter and land and move, you stop the person coming forward. And I think Canelo has obviously got massive power, but Crawford's got enough power to thwart Canelo and just win a points victory. Whether he does win the points victory on the cards is another thing. But I may change. I'm going out on the Wednesday of fight week, and once you're up close and around them, it changes your mind a little bit, as you know. So yeah, I think it's good. It's good preparation for him, and you know, Canelo looks in fantastic shape. I think Crawford's, you know, got that arrogance that winds Canelo up, and Canelo's wound Crawford up as well. You know, who have you fought? No an elite, all of that kind of stuff, that great stuff we had a few weeks ago. But what I would say, I went to the first press conference in Riyadh, And, you know, we all moaned about them having dinner with Turki Al Sheikh the night before. Do you remember when they went for dinner with him? We said, this isn't perfect preparation. Obviously, it's a long way off. And then later on in the week, they kind of went at it a little bit more. But I do think it doesn't feel like the event's on fire, in my view. Do you feel like, well, I know we're all excited about it, but I don't feel like it's on fire. I'd like to know how the ticket sales are going for the Allegiant Stadium. You know, it will be really big. It will do massive numbers on Netflix, but I just don't know if everybody's talking about it, you know?
I feel like the closer we're getting to the event, that's where the excitement's coming. It's not had like a Joshua Dubois, maybe even Usyk Dubois really recently of that kind of hype around it. I don't know if maybe that's because it's in America and those events were here, but one thing that I did want to put to you, Gareth, do you think the reason for that is that, and this is a reason why a lot of people I think are picking Canelo? Do you think because the size disparity and the weight, the natural weight difference, do you think that's why some people can't? Maybe this is probably more of a hardcore question, but do you think that's why some hardcore boxing fans can't get behind it because of the weight difference, or do you think that's why people make it so exciting and
Well,
why
I think
we're invested?
when you first think about Terence Crawford, and obviously, and the other thing, he's older than Canelo as well, which is it's an oddity
Yeah,
about this, even though he hasn't got, you know, kind of miles and miles on the clock, on his physical clock. When you first, certainly when I first came across Terence Crawford properly, he was fighting Ricky Burns at lightweight in Scotland. And, you know, obviously people can go up the weight divisions and be extraordinarily effective. But when you look that he was 135 and now he's fighting a 168 against a very strong 168, not a tall, not a big 168, because Canelo's a middleweight really in reality. Even though again at his age he probably would have gone to super middle to 12 stone now anyway. I think one of the reasons is the weight disparity. It's one of the oddities of the fight. Weirdly though, when Crawford beat Spence, in my mind immediately as an observer on the sport and as someone who speaks about it, I did say at the time I'd like to see him in against Canelo now. It would be the ultimate challenge for Crawford. And in a way, my wish has come true. And it is the greatest test that Crawford will ever have. This is his moment to prove that David can slay Goliath. Because that's what we're looking at. We're not looking at it in terms of height, because Canelo's only 5'8". We're not looking at it in terms of, you know, if it was, say, a Hamza Shiraz who's 6'5", you know, because he's a super middleweight and you've got different sizes of people. But behind Canelo's kind of the thing that's hidden away behind his height is that he is extraordinarily powerful with his punches. So I think a lot of sage people in the sports, I've gone back and forth for months on this, make the right decision by picking Canelo, because he is a good big un against a good little un, or they're two outstanding big uns and little uns. So you really ought to pick Canelo, because he may not get hit more than he's ever been hit before, but he'll probably get hit harder and with more force than he's ever been hit before. So it's whether Crawford can work in those tiny margins and deflect a lot of the power coming his way and be really effective as he is as a puncher, as a very accurate, precise, dangerous puncher, with himself augmented in weight and therefore power as well. So it's a really good fight. I mean, Canelo should be the big favourite in my view, and it's Mexican. It's a Mexican holiday. I've been there many times around this time of year in the second week of September. It's flooded. It's absolutely drunk with Mexicans. The place is drunk. Honestly, it's flooded with Mexicans. They create an amazing atmosphere. I'm sure he will get the major support in there, probably at least 60% of the support. and probably 70% of the audience, because Mexico will stop for him in this event, and it will gather steam in fight week. But in a sense, because it's being underwritten by Saudi Arabian investment, it's kind of a false economy in some ways, because the purses are bigger than they would ordinarily have been. The pay-per-view probably would have been, I don't know, what do we reckon? 2 million?
Maybe, yeah. Like
Something like that.
I think this event. I think everything will pick up. I think the Netflix behind it. I think that'll all pick up everything, because I feel like with Taylor Serrano, it will be on your home screen. I think like that week. I feel like anyone who isn't a boxing fan, just anyone with a Netflix subscription is going to see that event. I think that's when it's going to kind of really kick off. Gareth, I mean, there's another.
Can I say some more there? And
I
want to agree with you on that.
Of course.
Because the power of Netflix with its 500 million subscribers or whatever it is, I don't know what it is right now, but I know it's huge.
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right on that. And that's where you have to distinguish between the shoulder programming that they'll create in fight week. I mean, I was there for Katie Taylor Serrano 3. That was that. No, I wasn't. I was there for what was Jake Paul and Mike Tyson? Was that Serrano 2? That was 2.
Yeah, Jake
that was
Paul,
2.
Mike Tyson,
I was
Serrano
there for
2,
that
yeah.
one, and it was really big, and it felt really big, and the shoulder programming was really big. And my old Ma was watching the shoulder programming, and she's not a fight fan, she's in her 80s, and I think you're getting that kind of ilk following it. People that don't ordinarily watch a big boxing event, you got a crossover is what I'm talking about. So I think the same will go for this, and they're bound to create shoulder programming, and it will build towards a massive audience. My understanding is that the Mexican audience that normally watch on Deportes or whatever it is in Mexico, that they follow Canelo, and you're talking tens of millions watch him in Mexico. So the country grinds to a halt, because he is their kind of Jack Grealish rolled into. I'm trying to think of other well-known footballers now. You have to help me here, but
Messi,
rolled into
Ronaldo,
Harry Kane, rolled into whoever else our big stars are. But he's rolled into all of those into our Luke Littler, into our. He's the whole package. So they're going to put that on an hour's delay in Mexico, so that people will watch Netflix. So my point being, and it's a very interesting thing that you raise, is that the numbers in the stadium, there will be people in the stadium they'll have worked on selling those tickets, or comping people who are in Vegas, or comping the high rollers. But they've got to get a lot of people into that stadium, 60, 70,000, and they will. The numbers online, because it's free, will probably reflect a very, very big event. Maybe not the 110 million that watched Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, or the 65 million that watched live when Taylor and Serrano fought, but more on them for doing it. It was brilliant. But it probably will be in the several tens of millions, if not 50, 60 million, because people, like you say, people will watch it as a Saturday night event around the world, because it's free, and because they've been led to it by that thing where we get that little bell comes up on Netflix where it says 4 new things to watch, and 4 of them will be programming. You can watch this now when Canelo was a little boy and his mum and dad ran ice cream parlors, and you'll get the whole story, and the 7 brothers all boxed, and and he plays golf off 3, and when he fought Floyd Mayweather in his 23 in a similar scenario. But you're going to get all that, and Terence Crawford, the guy from Omaha who was shot one night when he left. You remember the bullets through his car that night? There were bullets through his car when he was playing craps or dice in downtown Omaha. So you'll get all those stories. They'll do it properly. It'll lead people to the trough. Everyone will drink from it. We'll probably see a great event. We don't know who's going to win it. This morning, as I speak to you, on Saturday night, I chose Crawford. This morning, I'm probably going to go Canelo, and that's the way I feel about it at the moment. But we'll probably look at the event and see it as very, very successful. It'll do massive numbers, but I don't know if it will solve anything for the overall picture in boxing in America.
I was going to say, do you
Is
think
that fair? Is that fair?
I think it's fair, but I think with the next event that I want to bring up, it could snowball into something big, and it's weird because the next fight I want to talk to you about, Gareth, isn't really a fight that anyone saw coming, or anyone I don't think sees as particularly competitive. But it's Gervonta Davis versus Jake Paul that was announced.
Oh, not this one again. I told Matt Lenihan I'm not talking about this ever again. Yeah, no, go on.
I was going to say, changing the topic on it then, Gareth. Do you think it will take events like Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul? Because make no mistake, whatever people's opinions are on it, it's going to be a huge event like all Jake Paul fights. So do you think those are the events that kick, like you said, can kind of restart the fire of boxing in America? Because Jake Paul's, a lot of people go out and watch him, and Gervonta Davis has this fan base that he headlines on pay-per-view on PBC. He's done it for years against opponents that kind of everyone sort of knew that he could beat, barring Lamont Roach last time. What do you think that could be something that could kickstart boxing back in America? It's a wild question to say, Gareth.
No, it's not. No, it makes absolute sense. We're going to watch it because Gervonta Davis just comes up to Jake Paul's belly button. He's 8 inches shorter, 7 weight divisions below him, 5 stone lighter, and he's able you're able to wind him up. Jake Paul's going to wind him up, but Tank likes to be wound up as well, and Tank likes to have a go at his opponent. So whether he steps up and just plays the game against Jake Paul and earns tens of millions of dollars for it, and you can't blame him for that. They're both master showmen in their own way. Tank Davis is the one guy in America right now who, above all the others boxing there, of who is American or African American, as we might say, he's the one who's got the biggest potential to be the greatest potential to be the biggest household name, in my view. And again, they kind of missed the boat with him as well in some ways because he's in his 30s now. We will watch it. We're rubbernecking again. It's a car crash. It's a circus. I spoke on Talk Sport several times about this last week. It's a circus, but it's less of a worry than Anthony Joshua fighting Jake Paul. I didn't like that fight. Didn't want to see it. Didn't believe it should be sanctioned or licensed. Whereas this, I know it's going to be entertainment, and I know it will draw crowds to the sport, and I know it's marketing genius again by Jake Paul. It's one of those things where you throw your hands in the air and you go, well, we don't need this, but people are going to enjoy it. And they'll enjoy the press conferences, they'll enjoy the build-up. The fight, I can't work out in my mind what's going to happen. I mean, we've got a very, very fine little un against a bang average big un. So, but with such a weight and size discrepancy that it would never be licensed in a pro ring, unless it was an exhibition, which is why they've labelled it that. And if it is an exhibition as such, maybe maybe we're going to get another non-event really, because as I say, the size and height and weight difference is just almost farcical. Well, it is farcical. Yeah. So Gervonta Davis, just to finish off on this, it's a really good point you make. So when Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia fought, I think it was the biggest fight in the year of the year. It grossed the most in America. They got massive purses. Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia, Teo Lopez, Devin Haney, Keyshawn Davis. Vasyl Lomachenko, I know he's retired. Boots Ennis, Terence Crawford, Errol Spence. That's about 7 or 8. Who am I missing? Who am I missing out of that grouping? Virgil Ortiz. Yeah. You see all that group there, 8 or 9 of them. 3 years ago, they could have started to put those guys in a group from 135 to 147 and made a tournament that if they'd all fought each other, I think boxing had a chance of being big in America again. I think Gervonta Davis would have been a big... Shaka Stevenson. Yeah. Shaka Stevenson, who I mustn't forget there. But I've named about 9 guys there. I know some of them are slightly bigger than others, but, you know, if you're talking about a two-weight weight differential, like Shaka could fight Conor Benn, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see it. When they were in the studio with Ariel Helwani the other day, I loved the back and forth between them. If you had wanted to fix boxing, if Turki Al Sheikh had wanted to fix boxing 2 years ago when you were doing the heavyweights, you could have got all those guys together under one umbrella in America and said, we're going to do for the next 4 years, we're going to find out who truly is the pound for pound number one in America. Out of all these guys, there was a chance to ignite the sport again, in my view, with those guys. And you would have got a couple of others coming up afterwards. And that is the way, in my view, they could have made boxing big in America again. Discuss. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
No, I agree. I think all of those guys, I think Times Square really had the potential. The fights didn't deliver, which was unfortunate. But like that event in Times Square, the fights... Obviously, I mean, like with the personalities on that card, that could have really ignited it. I think a Haney Garcia too really could kick, because you've got
absolutely,
because Ryan Garcia's fans, like they are, a lot of them are boxing fans, but a lot of them are younger people who have bought into his story and still kind of think he's this hero, regardless after everything that happened with Devin Haney. So I think definitely those are the fans who. Those are the fighters who need to build up the sport, because they need
to be personalities. They need to be characters. We need to have the because America is a vast continent, and people become local stars like they do in our country. Become local stars, and then when they go and fight in London, and when they go and fight in Manchester, and when they go and fight in Liverpool, and Liverpool, you know, doesn't have the biggest stadium that we go to at the moment, but Manchester's got you know, the MEN or the AO Arena, and it's got 20,000. We've got O2 Arena, then we've got our stadiums. You know, we've got crazy fans here for sport, and we've got a resonance because we're a small country, and if someone's a big name, they're a really big name nationally. In America, they're not a big name continentally unless they've done something, unless they're a bad boy, or they've crossed over, or they've had the resonance of several broadcasters. That's why Mayweather was big. That's why Mike Tyson was big. And for me, the American audience they never managed it with Deontay Wilder, even though he had 40 knockouts in 40 fights, or virtually that. They're like a bad boy as well. That's why I think Gervonta could have risen to the top of the pile. And I'm just saying that's how they market it. They want to see if the bad boy is going to get beaten. Like you say, with the Ryan Garcia Devin Haney fight, it had all the drama, and obviously the not making the weight. Ryan Garcia, again, massive star, 12 million social media followers or more now, I think, and yet he's a star only when he's in the limelight, and then he's not, and then he's hidden again. Or there's so much potential for boxing in America, but Showtime stopped. HBO, Fox isn't doing boxing, I don't believe, anymore. So unless Heyman's gone to Amazon. There's only like six events a year to Prime. So it's the landscape's changed, and they haven't gone with it. The dominance of the UFC in America, as I mentioned earlier, that's on all the screens in the bars. Even though they haven't got major stars at the moment, that you can't reel off 25 stars. When I started covering the UFC in 2005, there were mega stars, and I worked on it for nearly 13, 14 years very closely, you know, you could literally, it was wall-to-wall star names. Shogun Hua, Rampage Jackson, Rashad Evans, John Jones, and these Jones came through. Randy Couture, Tito Ortiz, Chael Sonnen. All these guys they're all big names in America with big voices, and they were almost like superheroes, you know. So there's a lot of work to do. I have my doubts, and this is not pouring any scorn on Turki Al Sheikh's ambitions and what Dana White can do together, and the UBO, the Unified Boxing Organization that they're going to create in belts, because Turkey's done a brilliant job in boxing. I mean, he's invested so much. We got a lot to be grateful to the Saudi Arabians for the investment they put in boxing. I don't agree with everything they do or have done, but what they have done has definitely for the betterment of the sport. I think they are up against a really tough struggle in America. I mean, I hope they succeed. This is the beginning of it. That's why it's so important to be there. You know, I remember getting very excited. I was in an airport on my way back from doing an event in Dubai, delighted that my flight was delayed, watching Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney the last time, because it was really big and I'd enjoyed it all week, and he hadn't made weight, and then there was the drugs and it was a major event, It was really thrilling, and the fact that it was annulled afterwards and made a big storyline, like you say, that rematch is an enormous fight as well, and it feels like we haven't capitalized on it. You know?
No, definitely. I feel like I do think Canelo, Crawford, and potentially Tank Jake Paul is going to be a catalyst for more big fights in America. And I think after November the 22nd, regardless of the result between Brian Norman and Devin Haney, I think that fight with Ryan Garcia is still always there for Devin, whatever he wants to do. I was going to say, Gareth, I do want to touch on AJ with the announcement that Jake Paul's fighting Tank. I mean, where would you like that fight with Jake Paul? It was kind of got a lot of traction. I mean, every Eddie Hearn interview that I watched, his name was mentioned alongside AJ's. But where do you think this leaves him now? What do you think we see Anthony Joshua do next?
Well, I had Frank Smith on. Obviously, he's instrumental in what's going on with Anthony Joshua as well as Eddie Hearn at the moment. I had Frank Smith on Talk Sports on Saturday night, and you know, they are deep in talks. He's been out to Africa, to Ghana, to talk about AJ fighting there. Again, the big problem is that AJ should be fighting Tyson Fury. That's the fight that makes sense. It's huge. It's an era-defining fight. It's a generation defining fight. It kind of bookends the era with the two guys on, you know, that 10-year growth that they've, you know, and the blips that they both had. It's the natural fight to have it. It would be a disgrace, by the way, if Francis Ngannou fights Deontay Wilder, and he's completed the tic-tac-toe of Wilder, Joshua, and Fury, and yet Wilder and Joshua and Fury and Joshua haven't fought each other. It just makes a mockery of the era, in my view, and what is wrong with boxing sometimes. I'm not thrilled by the idea of him fighting Tony Yoka, if I'm honest with you. But if that's the way they're going and he needs a tune-up, then that's fine, even though Yoka will bring some of his own dangers. I think the thing is with Anthony Joshua, he wins some, he loses some, he's on top or he's not. I think Daniel Dubois comes into a similar bracket, if I'm brutally honest. So we're coming up on a year that he hasn't fought. Or I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like I was being played by Eddie Hearn and Frank when I spoke to them in Riyadh about AJ fighting Jake Paul. I think it was genuine. I think Jake Paul is so brave and so foolhardy. He would step in against Anthony Joshua. I think that was genuine. Everyone's saying that they were just putting the names in their mouths to play us all. I don't agree with. I think that was genuine. I didn't agree with it. It worried me as a fight for Jake Paul's health. I didn't believe it should be sanctioned, as I think I said earlier on in our chat.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Dubois lost one now. Does he go back in with Dubois? Does he have a fight in Africa? I like the idea of that for him. Return to the spiritual home of his ancestors, or the home of his ancestors.
Kabayel, would Zhilei in China, like would those all kind of excite you, Gareth? Those type of names, obviously
Yeah,
a Joseph Parker rematch again.
yeah, Joseph Parker rematch would be good. Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, Joseph Parker rematch. I'd be interested in that if that was suddenly announced. More than Kabayel. A Dubois rematch. But how big is that and where is it?
Yeah.
The thing is, these guys have earned so much money for their fights in recent times. That he and Fury, for example, are only going to have big fights. That's the one that I want. I want Fury and Joshua, and I'd just like to see them do it now. But we probably won't get it for another year. We'll probably get it right at the cusp of where we believe there's no point in it happening anymore. And some people are there already. But there's only 2 minutes left on this call, by the way.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, to be fair, Gareth, that was a perfect place to end it, because that was my final question. But I mean, yeah, just a quick one on everything. Do you think?
Hang on, you just said that was my final question, and now
No.
you're asking another question.
I am.
I've said to your colleague, Mr. Lenihan, when you say final question,
I'll
my
leave.
mind shuts down, so you may not even get an answer to this one.
I was to say, I was just to file off. It seems like, Gareth, that above all fights, you want Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, like me and like
It's such
everyone
a
else.
big event. Look, it fills out Wembley. The narrative is huge. For me, the storyline goes all the way back to Fury's first fight on the undercard of Carl Froch and Jean Pascal, when he emerged as this 6'9" tall gypsy with ringlets, and I mean, he's been a brilliant story. As you know, I've had the privilege of being very close to him over that time, and documenting his comeback from being 10 stone overweight, and spending time with him in Marbella at the time when he was just coming back. And I had a very great run with Tyson, but also around Anthony Joshua, where when he got a silver medal at the World Championships, he came and presented an award for me when I was running the National School Sports Awards for the Telegraph years ago. And he was brilliant. I remember my sports editor, Keith Perry, at the time saying, "Oh, that kid's going to be a star." And he presented an award to a tiny little girl, 4'11" dancer. And he was amazing, and obviously the next year he did it all at the Olympics, and he brought big time boxing back, stadium boxing, and I just feel it'll be on BBC Radio 4, it'll be on Radio 5, it'll be on TalkSport, it'll be on all the channels, it'll be talked about in op-ed columns, it'll be talked about it's just enormous. It would just get the whole nation watching. I think it's really, really big. And I think it'd be just such a shame if it never happens, Regan.
It definitely will be, Gareth. I'm very aware this is going to end any minute. But no, thank you again for your time today, and hope you have a great rest of your Monday, mate.
Cheers. Always
Cheers.
a pleasure. Absolutely brilliant speaking to you. Cheers.
You too, Gareth.
The revolutionary ankle lock system, an integrated brace built into the boots, delivering unrivaled support, protecting ligaments from twists, tears, and trauma.